exposed. The spine-chilling tales of a haunted monster hunter and the cursed beasts I discovered. Jack Foster trudged through the suffocating suburb of Allensburg, a ghost town draped in the stillness of twilight. Even the crickets hushed, as if sensing the weight of dread that clung to the air. Life had twisted him into a hollow shell, a once-renowned monster hunter now bowing under the burden of failure. The few streetlights flickered ominously, casting shadows that laughed at his past glories. As he approached his cookie-cutter house, he spotted strange symbols, gnarled etchings spiraling like fingers on the trees lining their cul-de-sac. They pulsed in the darkness, and for a moment, he thought they might reach out and snatch him away. He shook his head and pushed open the door, the familiar creak echoing regret. Memories of laughter with his daughter, Mia, haunted him, now ghosts in the halls. Tonight, disappointment wrapped around him thicker than ever. Another hunt, another failure. They were supposed to be allies against the darkness, yet here he was utterly alone. The thrum of those ominous symbols lingered in his mind, uprooting unease that fed an inner turmoil he longed to drown. Days dragged on, each morning saturated with whispers of families vanishing, one by one. A teenager's laughter replaced by a heavy silence, unfolding dread spreading through the remaining residents of Allensburg like a disease. The suburban bubble he thought would protect his family cracked with every new disappearance. It spoke volumes. The life he built was crumbling, leaving jagged edges of bitterness and rage in its wake. Every glance from his neighbors screamed judgment, further isolating him. Mia, sensing his turmoil, approached with an unexpected determination. "Let us figure this out, Dad," she insisted, fierce and defiant, yet tinged with fear. The thought of teaming up both thrilled and terrified him. What if he failed her, like he did everyone else? But he couldn't bear the thought of losing her too. Together, they dove deeper into the growing mystery lurking beneath their mundane lives. Whispers began circling around Mr. Thompson, the jolly janitor from Mia's school who fit into the neighborhood like a well-worn glove. He put on a facade of a gentle guardian, but Jack couldn't shake the eeriness of his unyielding grin. Then came the discovery that would change everything: twisted dealings inside the town council, hinting at a cover-up so deep it threatened to drag them all down. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The tension swelled around them as Mia clutched an ancient tome she discovered in the dusty library. Jack's heart raced. It detailed an old American folk tale, dark hues of betrayal and loss seeping from every page. Suddenly, they weren't just delving into a mystery. They were stepping into something primal, with shadows lurking just outside their perception, monsters materializing from trust and familiarity. Jack locked eyes with Mia, the gravity of their journey weighing heavily on them both. The deeper they dug, the clearer it became. The real danger wasn't just the monster in the dark, but the specter of betrayal nestled in the hearts of those they knew. Would the trust they'd seemed to share really be the doom that awaited them? As they ventured further into the chilling unknown, one thing struck true: sometimes, the monsters we fear most are the ones we invite into our homes. Night deepened its embrace over Allensburg, sprawling like a heavy blanket over Jack and Mia as they studied the tome beneath the flickering kitchen light. Each word felt ominous, wrapping around Jack's throat like a noose. The whispers of nearby families vanished, pressed against him, clawing at his chest, needling memories of warm voices that once echoed in their home. What if Mr. Thompson is involved? Mia's voice wavered, laden with the innocence that clung to her like the dust that coated the book. Jack clenched his jaw, the idea scuttling across his mind with cruel urgency. They'd been too slow. The city was smiling, but the smiles twisted into ugly grins, warping the truth. "You don't know that. We have to be careful," he replied, trying to anchor them in caution. The last thing he wanted was to plunge them into danger, but the clock was ticking, each second bringing more grim possibilities. He shifted his attention back to the tome, hating how the intricate symbols seemed to shimmer in the dim light, inviting yet menacing. They begged to be deciphered. The wind howled just outside their window, rattling the panes, conjuring visions of things lurking in the shadows. Jack's heart raced, but he fought the urge to let paranoia consume him. Something was already infringing on their reality, but naming it out loud felt like inviting futility into their tiny kitchen. Hours passed, the atmosphere heavy as a thick fog. They pored over the pages, searching desperately for helpful answers that eluded them. It was during a flicker of the light that tuned his focus back to Mia. Her face blanched, eyes wide with terror. "Dad, it mentions a tribute," she whispered, the tremor in her voice betraying her terror. "A sacrifice to keep the darkness at bay." Jack swallowed hard, pulling a breath deep into his lungs. "What do you mean?" "The family's disappearing." "They're the tribute," she replied, horror painting her features. "It all fits. They've been taken to feed the monster." His mind raced, connecting a web of painful thoughts and haunting truths. Had they unwittingly stepped into a nightmare promised within those pages? He glanced around, his heart thumping like a war drum, feeling the walls pulse with a life of their own. Each corner felt too constricting. Each creak echoed louder, drumming anxiety into his bones. Suddenly, a loud thump sounded from outside, followed by muffled voices. He exchanged a glance with Mia, the horror in her eyes mirroring his own. They crept to the window, the shadows outside threatening to envelop their home. Jack pressed his forehead against the chilly glass, peering into the dark. The silhouettes loomed, people clad in hoods like specters from a nightmare, gathering on the street where the symbols glowed ominously against the sedimentary muck of Allensburg soil. "What are they doing?" Mia breathed, her eyes pinned to the gathering. "I don't know," he replied, dread pooling in his stomach. Something primal within him screamed that this was wrong, that they were mere spectators of a cruel game. Suddenly, one of the figures turned, and the light glinted off something reflective, a steel blade. "Run, Mia," he shouted, adrenaline surging, pushing them both towards the back door. As they stumbled into the yard, the shadows came alive, rushing towards them, cloaked in the unseen terror of betrayal and age-old monstrosity. Jack's heart thrummed in sync with each hasty step, jarring them into a primal fight-or-flight reflex. They sprinted, their breaths hoarse, the shadows closing in like a noose around their throats. Somewhere in the distance, the eerie cadence of chanting filled the air, weaving through the night, promising doom. The sounds became a frantic chorus, pulling at the very fabric of hope. Jack's instincts kicked in. This was not just a town broken by loss. It was a cauldron simmering with evil, its secrets boiling to the surface. "What do we do?" Mia's voice broke through his thoughts, shattered yet fierce. "We find out what they want and we protect each other. No more hiding," he yelled back, determination surging through him, igniting a spark in their desperate escape. But as they turned the corner of their house, what awaited them would unveil a truth even more horrifying than the chilling tales from the tome. A lurking figure stood before them, familiar yet twisted, eyes glinting with malice, the jolly face of their neighbor, Mr. Thompson. "Seems you've uncovered too much, but trust me, it's for your own good," he grinned, stepping out of the shadows. And then, Jack finally understood that he wasn't just fighting against darkness. He was facing the embodiment of its treachery, standing in the guise of trust. In that moment, the real nightmare began to unravel. When light meets shadow, which one rolls in deeper? Jack's heart plunged into his stomach as Mr. Thompson's cold laughter echoed in the dim yard. The glow of the distant symbols cast an otherworldly light on the man's features, transforming him into a caricature of dread. Each step the man took felt deliberate, almost predatory. "Why are you doing this?" Jack spat, rage and fear intertwining in a web made of icy tendrils. He pushed Mia behind him. She was trembling, the warmth of her small frame seeping against his back, grounding him. "Doing this?" Thompson chuckled softly, tilting his head as if savoring the moment. "I'm merely guiding the inevitable, ensuring balance is maintained." The darkness needs its due. The night seemed to grow colder, the shadows around them thickening, like creatures hungry to ensnare them. You mean those families? Jack's voice shook with disbelief. They were sacrifices. The town thrives on it. My boy? Thompson crooned, his voice smooth like silk yet dripping with malevolence. They've become a part of something greater, a force that shields Allensburg from true chaos. It's a tradition, you see. What madness is this? Mia shouted, stepping out from behind Jack, her voice breaking through the fog of horror. You can't hide behind that. They were people. Thompson's expression shifted slightly, a flicker of annoyance dulled by a glimmer of something darker, something glutinous. You misunderstand, Mia. You're tapping into the very nature of existence. Life must flow, and we give in exchange for continuation. But now you've opened a door. Jack felt a rush of horror wash over him. What door? He glanced backward, seeking something, anything, that could provide them escape. The door to your knowledge, sweet girl, Thompson hissed, stepping closer. You will soon understand what the night demands. And it's your turn now. Without warning, the atmosphere thickened, shadows billowing toward them. The air grew dense, stifling, pressing against Jack's chest as though 1,000 invisible hands clawed at him. He could feel the whispers slithering around the edges of his mind, and panic ignited within him. Run! He screamed, adrenaline coursing anew through his veins. He grabbed Mia's wrist, pulling her away from Thompson as they darted toward the far side of the yard, desperate to create distance from the horrible figure. The chanting swelled behind them, sinister and melodic. Hidden in the garden-esque gloom, Jack's eyes scanned for any sign of refuge. They could not let this man, this monster, claim them too. They couldn't join the silent cries of the lost families. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath their feet. A low rumble echoed through the night, resonating deep within Jack's bones. What is that? Mia fell to her knees, holding her hands to her head as if to block out the rising dread. The ground won't hold forever. Thompson's voice wove through the night, teasing and torturous. You're too late to escape and the call has begun. Then, Jack saw it, a flicker of movement in the darkness beyond the garden. Figures emerged, angry shadows with eyes like burning coals. The chanting grew louder, and then he recognized it. They were the families, or what remained of them, twisted forms lost in eternal suffering, eyes empty, teeth bared in unholy laughter. No, Mia gasped, face paling. We have to go back. Jack pulled her deeper into the yard, adrenaline surging. We have to find a place to hide. But where? The malevolent figures lurked close, melding with the night. The reality of this horror tormented him. They were outnumbered. The street was echoing with chants. Chanting voices drowned in malicious joy, the darkness reveling in its harvest. Daddy! Mia screamed suddenly, breaking Jack's tense focus. A gaunt figure shot out toward them from the perimeter of the yard, the open maw of night now representing fear incarnate. Jack stumbled back, instinctively raising his hands to shield Mia as shadows reached out, closing in tight. The last thing he saw before they engulfed them was the twisted smile on Thompson's face, triumphant and expectant, waiting for the next offering. And then, everything went black. A chilling silence lingered over the yard. In the distance, muffled whispers echoed like fading memories, while far off, Thompson's laughter twisted with the night as darkness descended like a final shroud of despair. Jack wondered if the last flicker of hope had been extinguished. Struggling against the familiar grip of night, the question loomed, was it truly over or the beginning of an even darker passage? Jack gasped as if surfacing from a nightmare, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth and decay. Confusion clouded his thoughts. He couldn't tell if he had lost minutes or hours. He blinked against the darkness, his heart hammering, straining beneath an overwhelming weight. Mia! He shouted, the name tearing from his throat, desperation rising like bile. The world was shrouded in inky black, swirling with the remnants of whispered chants that lingered like fog. Felt alive, pulsing around him, suffocating. Mia! No answer. A chill slid down his spine as he struggled to rise, the cold ground clinging to him like a cloying fog. Panic clawed at his mind, and then he heard the faint sound of whimpering, drifting through the dark. Jack turned toward the noise, each step punctuated by a sense of impending doom, echoing the chaos boiling inside him. "Mia?" he called, voice wavering, desperate. The darkness felt like it was watching, waiting. Each second felt stretched, wrapped tightly in fear. He stepped forward, arms outstretched, expecting to crash into something solid, a wall, or even the familiar warmth of Mia's fragile frame. Nothing. Only emptiness. With each step he took, the sobbing became clearer, a soft, heartbreaking sound that sliced through the suffocating gloom. "Mia," he urged again, cracking under the weight of dread. "Jack?" Her voice trembled, barely audible, like a nearly extinguished lantern flickering in a storm. Relief surged in him, a flicker of hope in the endless night. He stumbled toward the sound. Suddenly, the whispers returned, encircling him like a swarm of angry wasps. Jack froze, pulse racing, and looked up. The shadows shifted, twisting as if they had a life of their own. Figures, familiar yet broken, lurked at the edges of his vision, their faces twisted in agony, mouths moving in silent screams. He wanted to scream back, but his voice wouldn't come. "Mia!" A rush of movement flashed near him, and through the darkness, he saw her, a pale figure huddled beneath an old oak tree. Jack's heart leapt. He dashed toward her, dodging shadows that clawed at him from every angle. "Mia!" He reached her just as a guttural growl erupted from the depths of the shadowy cocoon. It sent shivers down his spine. Mia cowered, eyes wide with terror. "They're coming, Jack!" Her face was smeared with tears, and her small hands trembled as she clenched them against her chest. "What are they?" he breathed, scanning the perimeter. The whispers escalated around them, a cacophony of voices pouring out their torment. Mia pointed toward a flickering light that pulsed beyond the trees, illuminating the twisted forms in shallow breaths. They want us to join them." Jack's instincts screamed at him as he scanned the dreadful scene. They were trapped deep in the heart of a nightmare, shadows closing in, the air thick with malice. "No, we want tea. Let us get out of here," he shouted, grabbing her hand tightly, yanking her up. The shadows moved closer, their growls merging with the shrieks of the lost. As they fled toward the pulsing light, Jack felt the air shift behind him. Something massive lunged, and he glanced back. The twisted shape of a familiar figure stepped out from the darkness, its grin stretching impossibly wide. Thompson, eyes glinting with madness amidst the encroaching shadows. "The balance must be maintained," he roared, voice booming, echoing through the night. "You cannot run from what is owed. The darkness is yours to claim." Jack stumbled forward, dragging Mia behind him, heart racing faster than his feet could carry them. Then it hit him, a memory ignited, a trinket he had seen in the recesses of the town library. A talisman, something to protect against the dark. An urge surged through him, a forced desperation to find it. "Keep running, Mia. We have to get to the library." But even as he shouted, he felt the shadows tightening, brushing against them, taunting. Would he be fast enough? Around him, whispers escalated, desperate cries spinning into a web of despair, tightening their grip. The darkness thrummed with life, eager to engulf them. "Run!" he gasped again, thrusting Mia forward, his heart hammering like a wild drum. They had to escape the tendrils of night coiling around them. But in the back of his mind lingered a horrid realization. Once a door is opened, the darkness does not forget, and it never lets go. As they burst through the threshold of trees and flung themselves into the open, Jack felt the night closing in. What awaited them in the library could be just as horrifying. Would they find salvation amidst the cursed pages? Or would they fall deeper into the ravenous maw of darkness? And as he dashed towards the flickering light, one thought consumed him. Were they truly running toward salvation, or diving deeper into doom? The library loomed ahead, its silhouette stark against the creeping night. Jack sprinted, adrenaline coursing through him, each heartbeat drowning out the encroaching shadow. The flickering light seemed to pulse in time with his fear. It mocked him, teased him as it danced just out of reach. "Mia, we're almost there," he shouted, but his voice sounded hollow, drowned out by the rising flood of anguished whispers. The shadows were close now, their growls reverberating in the darkness like thunder in a storm. He felt the chill of their breath on his neck, and panic surged through his veins. As they reached the library steps, Jack flung the heavy door open, letting out a cold creak that echoed in the cavernous silence within. Felt wrong, too quiet after the storm outside. The musty scent of old books clung to the air, wrapping around him like a shroud. Shadows stretched across the walls, seeming to flicker with a life of their own. "Mia, stay close." He grabbed her hand firmly, pulling her inside. They stepped into a world of dusty light, where the fading glow of flickering bulbs cast long, eerie shadows among the towering shelves. The whispers were louder now, intertwining with the rustling of pages from tomes that seemed to flip open on their own. Jack's heart raced as he took in the chaos around them. Bookshelves loomed, they felt alive, as if they were closing in. But he had one purpose: find the talisman. "Jack, look." Mia pointed tremblingly at a table bathed in pale light. There, the talisman rested, a simple, intricately carved stone that shimmered faintly. "Stay here," he whispered, inching toward it. The closer he got, the heavier the atmosphere became, like a weight pressing on his chest. The air thickened, prickling with unease. Suddenly, a loud thud vibrated through the library, causing Jack to jump. A shadow flickered behind him. His breath caught. "Mia, get down," he shouted, instinctively pushing her behind the nearest bookshelf just as a figure lunged from the darkness. Thompson. His eyes wild, face splattered with shadowy remnants of their past encounters. "Fool, you don't understand," Thompson bellowed, his voice a guttural growl. "You think you can escape the price of your actions? The darkness must claim its due." Jack's heart raced, panic born from both fear and anger. "Get away from us." He took a step back, rage and panic colliding within him. He could see it. Thompson was no longer just a man. He was a vessel, corrupted, consumed by the very shadows they were trying to escape. "Come join us. Join us in eternal night," Thompson said, reaching toward them with fingers twisted in grotesque shapes. His grin widened, teeth glinting like shards of broken glass. Jack looked at Mia. Her eyes were wide, shining with tears and disbelief. "We can't let him take us, Mia. No, let us go for the talisman," she urged, tugging at Jack's arm. He nodded, feeling the pull of the talisman calling to him, offering a glimmer of hope. But before they could move, the air shifted violently. The shadows, now tangible, swirled around them, as if recognizing their intent. They writhed, reaching for Jack and Mia with claw-like fingers, dark tendrils of despair saturating the space around them. This was at the moment of reckoning. Jack could feel the energy shifting, the darkness gathering. "Mia, on three we grab it." 1, 2, but the moment stretched. The whispers crescendoed, the eerie cacophony threatening to drown them both. In that heartbeat, a chilling thought struck Jack. Was the talisman even real, or just another trap set in the shadows? 3. They lunged forward, but as Jack's fingers grazed the talisman, a piercing scream erupted from the shadows, swallowing everything. The library trembled. The ground shook under their feet as Jack felt himself being tugged back, almost yanked into the abyss. The whispers became shrieks, crescendoing into madness. "Jack, save me," Mia cried, but it was too late. As he gripped the talisman tight in his hand, the darkness surged, consuming everything in its path. And just like that, they were plunged into a world far darker than the one they'd fled, separated among the screaming shadows. Jack's breath hitched with horror. What had they awoken? The darkness had teeth, and it was hungry. Could the talisman save them, or had they just sealed their doom? Jack felt the world ripple around him, reality bending like a warped reflection in shattered glass. The darkness engulfed him, swallowing every sense: sight, sound. Even the familiar weight of Mia's hand slipped from his grasp. All he could hear was an endless, spine-chilling cacophony, and then silence. He stood alone, in a void that felt alive, the shadows swirling at the corners of his vision like predatory beasts hungry for flesh. Panic clawed at his throat, but he forced himself to breathe, deep and steady. "Mia!" His voice echoed, swallowed by the abyss that as he turned in circles. The specters of the library flickered in and out, rows of bookshelves looming like silent sentinels, their dusty spines cracked like ancient bones. The light from the talisman pulsed in his pocket, a beacon against the crushing dark, yet he could feel the shadows crawling towards it, eager to extinguish its glow. "Focus, Jack," he muttered under his breath, muscles taut with fear. He reached for the talisman, feeling its cold surface against his palm, and for a moment it burned hot with power, filling him with courage. But the moment evaporated as terror crept back in. "Where are you, Mia?" He strained to hear any sign of her, but all that met him was silence, a void thick and suffocating. He stepped forward, forcing himself to move, hoping to find a way to reconnect with her. As he advanced, shadows entwined his feet, forming thick tendrils that pulled him down. "No!" He kicked against them, fighting through the oppressive darkness. The whispers returned, swirling around him like a wicked song meant to unhinge his mind. "The darkness claims you," they hissed, twisting into laughter, choruses of torment that gnawed at his sanity. Desperation clawed at him. "Stop!" he shouted, weaving through the nightmare envisioned from his deepest fears. "I want to be yours." But the more he resisted, the more insistent the shadows became. They laughed, a horrible cackle that echoed off the darkened shelves, and he stumbled, falling to his knees as droplets of chill sweat dripped down his back. It felt like hands ripping at his mind, stripping away the bravado he clung to. Then, he saw it, a flicker of light dancing in the gloom. Heart pounding, Jack rushed towards it, knowing that could be Mia or his doom. He charged forward, bracing against the darkness that surged behind him, twisting and writhing like an angry serpent. The light grew larger, morphing into shapes, and in an instant, he realized it was a figure. A woman, her features obscured by shadows, but he recognized the fear in her eyes. "Mia!" Jack cried, arms outstretched. "Mia! Jump!" he yelled, but as the figure lurched closer, it melted into darkness, laughter attacking him from all sides. The flicker disappeared as quickly as it had come, and he was engulfed once more, determined not to falter. He clung to the talisman tighter, its glow spreading warmth through his soul. "I have to find her. I can't lose her," he vowed. With every ounce of willpower, Jack pushed forward, but the shadows became a tangible wall, a thick curtain of despair that threatened to suffocate him. The whispers now morphed into a single voice, low and dripping with malice. "Your fear feeds us. Come join us." Suddenly, the ground beneath him split open, a dark maw of nothingness gaping wide. Jack stumbled backward, heart racing. If he fell into that, he'd be lost forever. "Jack!" That voice, he heard it. "Help me!" No longer a whisper, Mia's voice rang clear, desperate and filled with terror. He couldn't hold back, bolting toward the sound. As he neared, another figure emerged, her form barely recognizable through the shadows. It was Thompson, grinning with madness, clutching a writhing mass of darkness that was stretching toward Mia. "Don't touch her!" Jack screamed, feeling the talisman vibrate with energy. Just as Thompson turned, a flash of light exploded, pushing back the shadows momentarily. Jack seized the opportunity, rushing toward the dark entity engulfing Mia. "I want to let you take her." But before he could reach them, the shadows leaped, clawing at him like a pack of wild animals, dragging him back into the void. Jack's heart thundered in his chest, his breath quickening as he realized the truth. Time was running out. In that moment of crushing despair, the talisman flared brighter, casting a ghostly light. "You cannot win," Thompson bellowed, his figure warping in the flicker. But Jack was determined, ready to fight whatever horror lay before him. "I will," he declared, even as fear threatened to consume him. The shadows recoiled momentarily, hesitating, and as he reached into the glow of the talisman, He grasped one final truth he couldn't ignore, one that would change everything. What sacrifice would he have to make to finally confront this darkness? Could he outsmart the rules that bound them in this nightmare? The shadows stirred again, and Jack was left to wonder just how much of himself he would have to give to save Mia and whether he truly had the power to turn the tide. Jack felt the abyss closing in again, the whispers surging like a tidal wave, drowning out his racing thoughts. He had to act. Mia's voice, fragile, almost ethereal, echoed in his mind, urging him to break free from the dark arms of despair. Fight! He screamed internally, his breath now shallow, each inhale teetering on panic. The shadows seemed to murmur among themselves, as if debating his resolve. He tightened his grip on the talisman, summoning its strength, praying it would be enough. With every ounce of courage, he lunged forward, his body moving on instinct, battling the grip of the darkness that tugged at him. "Enough!" he shouted, his voice ricocheting through the void. "I want to yield." The shadows recoiled, but not for long. Their laughter returned, louder, angrier. They knew what he feared most, losing Mia, losing himself. Jack stumbled over crackling debris, remnants of a world he once knew, and the darkness rippled, pulsing violently. Panic surged through him, threatening to freeze him in place. Then he spotted it again, the flicker of light drawing nearer, beckoning him like a siren's call. "Mia!" He shouted her name, desperation coating every syllable. He felt the shadows clawing at his back, their chilling grasp whispering hollow promises of safety in surrendering to the dark. "Join us," they crooned, their voices a seductive lullaby tailored to unravel his sanity. But he pushed back against the temptation, forcing each step forward. The light grew closer, revealing disjointed visions of his past, the warmth of Mia's laughter, the safety of their home, moments filled with reckless joy. Those memories fueled his resolve. With each step, he felt the talisman vibrate with energy, responding to his longing to be reunited. "Keep going, Jack," he whispered to himself, blood pounding in his ears as the light pulsed violently, illuminating grotesque shapes swirling amidst the shadows. Each face was twisted, deformed, eyes glowing with malicious hunger. "Mia!" he bellowed again, his voice trembling as he finally broke free from the oppressive weight of the darkness momentarily. The light coalesced into a clearer image, a silhouette of Mia, struggling, arms outstretched but fading. "Help me!" she gasped, her image flickering like an old film reel, overtaken by the encroaching void. Jack's heart sank at the sight, but it ignited a fire within him. "No!" he screamed, lunging forward, hands grasping uselessly at the darkness that snaked around her. Shadows snared him, tearing at his clothes and skin, whispers clawing at his mind. "Your love is futile, she will belong to us." He could feel the cold seep into his bones, despair curling around his heart. But the talisman pulsed in defiance, cutting through the chilling fog. "Mia!" he cried one last time, urging her to hold on, to stay. As he reached for her, something shifted. The talisman blazed in intense white light, shimmering with an otherworldly power. A crack in the darkness opened, brief but apparent, igniting a rush of fresh hope. Caution fell away, and he dove into the gap, determined to breach the shadows that held Mia hostage. The moment was electric. Time slowed, every heartbeat thundered as darkness grasped for him, howling its rage. Jack fought against the tide, body thrumming with energy, heart filled with a fierce determination that he never knew existed. "Let her go!" he roared defiantly, pushing himself through the gloom. But as he reached for her, the darkness began to close in again, a menacing wave of pure terror. And then it hit him, a chilling truth buried beneath the surface of his fear. The price of salvation wouldn't simply be sacrifice, would it be betrayal? "Jack!" Mia's voice shimmered in the darkness, laced with urgency. He had moments left before the shadows reclaimed her. Time was fleeting, but one question loomed large. What part of him was he willing to leave behind to save Mia? The shadows twisted, ready to snatch him away, and he was left teetering on the brink of a choice that would change everything forever. As the final tendrils of darkness wrapped around him, he realized the stakes had never been higher: his freedom or her life. What would he discover about himself once the shadows made their claim? The world around Jack warped as the shadows entwined tighter, revealing glimpses of a nightmarish reality. Time fragmented, moments stretched beyond reason. He could still hear Mia's voice, desperate and fragile, each word slicing through the fog of despair. "Save me, please." He could feel the power of the talisman pooling, burning against his palm like a small sun. It pulsed in rhythm with his racing heart, urging him to push harder against the suffocating grip of darkness. Yet doubt flickered in his mind like a faulty bulb, taunting him. What if it wasn't strong enough? What if he was too late? Jack lunged deeper into the void, clawing through the shadows. Each movement felt agonizingly slow, as if he were wading through molasses. The whispers became a cacophony, 1,000 voices merging into a single, sinister mantra. "Give in. Let go. Shut up," he shouted. But the shadows only laughed, an echo of his deepest fears reflected in their chilling tones. What if he wasn't meant to win? What if fighting for Mia would lead to his own undoing? With a smirk that sent a shiver down his spine, one shadow broke free from the rest and morphed into a figure. It was a grotesque resemblance of Mia, skin pale and stretched, eyes hollow and starved for light. "You can't save her, you should join us." Jack recoiled, sweat pouring down his brow, the talisman vibrating violently. "That is not Mia," he yelled, words fierce and passionate. Even as guilt washed over him, doubt gnawed at the edges of his resolve. The dark figure advanced, melding into the shadows around them. "You're a fool to think love can conquer this. You've always been nothing without me," it hissed, using the familiar tones of a once-beloved voice to break him down. Jack squeezed his eyes shut, forcing recollections of real Mia into his mind. Her laugh, the warmth of her touch, the undeniable bond they shared. They were raw, visceral images that filled his heart with both longing and a fierce sense of purpose. "Hold on, Mia. I'm coming," he shouted into the darkness, propelled by renewed determination. Each heartbeat became a countdown as he battled against the voices. The talisman glowed brighter, illuminating the grotesque vision of Mia's twisted form. And with a deep breath, Jack pushed forward again, ready to tear through whatever barrier lay between them. "Stay with me," he cried out, ignoring the cold fingers of the shadows that pricked at his skin. He lunged once more, every step fueled by a desperate need. But the darkness laughed louder now, as if they were toying with him, weaving tighter around his throat. Suddenly, the shadows whipped back, revealing a new terror. The ground shook, a massive rift splitting the darkness like a gaping maw, drawing him closer to an unseen void. The sickening weight of dread filled his stomach. Would this open chasm swallow him whole? Could he risk stepping forward lest he lose her forever? "No, I won't let this be the end." Jack braced himself, desperate limbs trembling as he edged toward the bright light that flickered between the shadows. Mia, vulnerable and pleading. But just as he reached out, the edge of the rift rumbled louder, threatening to consume anything in its wake. His heart raced as he felt gravity claw him back. "Mia!" he cried once more, knowing that the choice he faced would define not just his fate but hers as well. Biting his lip, staring into the void, Jack knew he was standing at the precipice of the ultimate choice: freedom or destruction. And then he saw a glimpse of Mia, her face twisting into agony as the shadows surged forward, ready to claim her completely. What if in fighting to save Mia, he had to become the very thing he feared? Would he unravel everything he was, leaving only darkness in his wake? The rift trembled ominously, and Jack's breath hitched. Could he truly save her, or had he already stepped too far into the abyss? The moment hung in the air like a thick fog of dread, Jack's mind racing. His heart pounded against his ribs, each beat mingling with the frenzied whispers of the shadows. The rift before him pulsated, a living entity hungry for despair. "Mia, I will not let you go," he shouted, words tearing from his throat like a desperate prayer. He fought against the gravity of the void, his limbs heavy as they felt the weight of the darkness urging him back. The spectral version of Mia twisted in the shadows, mouth opening in a silent scream. The image sent a jolt of despair through Jack, but fury ignited deep within him. "No, you're not real," he roared. He clutched the talisman tight, feeling its warmth swell like a beacon. In that moment, an instinctual surge of power coursed through him. The very ground beneath him seemed to tremble in response as the shadows recoiled, sensing the light within him. Stepping closer, the rift's edge seemed to pulse in rhythm with his heartbeat, drawing him ever closer. The air crackled with energy, reverberating around him as he steadied himself. Could he really break the hold of this darkness? Just then, a shriek rang out, drowning out all other sounds. A shriek ripped from Mia's twisted lips. "Jack, please, save me." The anguish in her voice gripped him, twisting his gut into knots. Doubt threatened to encircle him once more, but he pushed it away. This wasn't the Mia he knew. This was a decoy, a puppet of the shadows. "Hold on, I'm coming," he yelled, rushing forward with reckless abandon, heart racing as he stumbled over the jagged remnants of dark matter. Every instinct urged him to falter, to pull back, but he steadied his mind, focusing on the real Mia, the laughter, the warmth, the dreams they shared. As he reached the edge of the rift, an agonizing pull gripped him. It clawed at his consciousness, begging him to submit. "Join us," the shadows hissed, weaving images of his darkest thoughts: failure, loneliness, loss. He felt like he was spiraling, losing grip on reality. "No," he snarled defiantly, thrusting the talisman into the rift's mouth. It erupted with radiant light, cascading over him like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. A shockwave rang through the abyss, ripping the rift wider. Shadows wailed in agony, recoiling from the penetrating brightness. Jack seized the opening, propelled by raw desperation. He could almost grasp Mia's hand. But reality shifted again. She was there, yet not. A mirage trapped in a web of darkness. The real Mia was fading. "Jack," she cried, voice now raw with fear. In that heartbeat, the light flickered. The talisman dimmed, its power waning. Had he truly reached the limits of its magic? The rift pulsed hungrily, threatening to close, sealing Mia away forever. Panicking, Jack looked around, searching for something, anything, to stabilize the light. The darkness laughed, mocking his efforts, urging him to give in. "You can't win against the inevitable," it taunted, its laughter echoing off the walls of his mind. Jack clenched his fists, though doubt clawed at him. What could he offer in exchange for her freedom? The thought twisted painfully in his mind, but desperation hardened his resolve. "I'd give everything. Just let her go." And then a sound, faint yet familiar. A quiet rustling, as if branches brushed against each other, grew louder. Jack turned, eyes wide. He could almost hear her laughter again, soft but insistent, mingling with the cacophony of despair. "Jack, don't stop." With one final surge of adrenaline, Jack lunged forward, the talisman sparking against the shadows. A blinding flash erupted from his palm. As the world around him erupted into chaos, he felt the rift expand. Would he succeed in pulling Mia from the void, or would he fall deeper into darkness? And then, in the midst of blinding light, he heard her voice again. "Jack." The brilliance enveloped him as tendrils of shadow curled around him like cobwebs, tightening their grip. Was this the moment everything ended, or a chance to reclaim what was lost? As the light flickered, Jack's choice hung before him, teetering on the edge of obliteration. Jack felt a surge of resolve crashing through him like an unstoppable wave. He plunged himself into the horror surrounding Mia, heart pounding with purpose. "I'd give anything," he shouted, and in that very moment he knew he meant it. The talisman pulsed fiercely in his palm, urging him to act, to ignite the very essence of courage that flickered within him. "Mia!" he roared, fear twisting into strength. Each step he took pushed against the oppressive shadow, rallying every ounce of courage he could muster. His love for her burned bright, a beacon against the suffocating darkness. The rift trembled, fighting against the radiant energy he channeled. Could the light within him truly break the chains of despair? Jack, please. Her voice cracked through the darkness again, and it sliced through him like a knife. The ache of connection refused to dim. The images of warm laughter and cherished memories burst through the veil of shadows, infusing him with determination. The talisman in his hand erupted into an overwhelming brilliance, the light flooding the abyss as shadows recoiled with screeches of agony. Jack felt the very fabric of darkness unraveling before him, tendrils of despair wilting against the sheer force of his resolve. This ends now, he bellowed, rushing forward, hand clutching the talisman tightly. In an instant, he saw her. Mia stood just within the light of the rift, her face pale but glowing with a desperate hope. The energy around them crackled, and for a fleeting moment, he felt an otherworldly connection binding them together. He reached out, fingers brushing against the limits of the void. "Hold on," Jack screamed, pushing through the snarling shadows that clawed at him, angry shrieks pounding against his eardrums. "Save me," she pleaded, eyes wide with fear and trust. "Don't let go," he implored as the shadows howled around him, wailing with rage. The rift quaked, pulsing like a heartbeat, and Jack knew this was their chance. Every ounce of fear and doubt transformed into unyielding love. He was willing to defy the greatest odds. Jack lunged forward, pushing the talisman against the edge of the rift in one fluid motion. A brilliant flash erupted, blinding him and derailing the shadows whirling around them. "You cannot escape," Thompson's voice echoed as the shadows fought against the light, striking at Jack's resolve. But something inside Jack snapped. "You're wrong." The brilliance surged, warmer than the fiercest flame, illuminating the darkness drowning them. The shadows screeched, collapsing in on themselves, twisting into nothingness. "Jack!" Mia was closer now, her silhouette shimmering against the radiance. With a reckless sweep of desperation, he grabbed for her, hand-reaching fingers brushing against warmth that ignited his heart. "Together," he shouted as their hands clasped. The moment their skin made contact, a surge of energy erupted. Light bloomed like 1,000 suns, pushing back the darkness with ferocious intensity. The talisman merged with their connection, a binding force of hope, love, and unyielding courage. They became an unstoppable force, ripping through the shadows that had held them captive. With one last pulse, the darkness shattered. The rift widened, spilling light across the void, illuminating every twisted face that had haunted their souls. Jack felt himself being pulled, the warmth of Mia's hand rooting him into reality. And then silence. The echoes of torment silenced, the shadows evaporated, leaving only the two of them standing in the glow, trembling yet victorious. Jack collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, and pulled Mia into an embrace that ignited the floodgates of relief. "Are you okay?" he asked, voice trembling. "I am now," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. In that moment, everything shifted. The symbol that had haunted Allensburg cracked and faded from view, leaving only emptiness and air, free from the weight of darkness. The threat was gone. Together, they emerged from the remnants of horror rising from the ashes of what could have consumed them. Jack looked into Mia's eyes, knowing they had faced the abyss, returned from its grip, and claimed victory against unimaginable odds. Their bond burned fiercely. It would never be broken again. And so, in the heart of Allensburg, a new dawn lit the horizon. Where shadows once lingered, now only hope resided. Together, they stepped forward, ready to face a world free from the darkness that had tried to devour them. As they walked into the sunlight, a weight lifted from their shoulders. Jack knew their journey was not just about survival. It was about reclaiming their lives, their hopes, and their healing. The nightmares couldn't touch them anymore. Love was their shield against the dark. Now, this is the moment to take action. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm, and let us know you want more epic tales. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this explosive ending. And Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this exciting conclusion. Your support is what keeps this channel alive, and only true fans understand the importance of taking these actions.